Step one, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step two, get some good, some food in you. Step three, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step four, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Good morning, good morning. Welcome to Good Morning Crypto, where we turn your early hours in the morning into your edge in financial freedom. Today, you know what we're talking about. The Bitcoin all-time highs that we saw this weekend. It demolished levels, level after level. I had a little target that I had been looking at, 77,000, and that was a platinum pocket on an extension, and it absolutely destroyed that. And now I'm looking a little bit higher before maybe seeing a pullback. I know we've got some fear on that Bitcoin fear and greed. We are back in extreme greed. So definitely something to keep your eye on. So let's swap over to that stock heat map and get you prepped for success today. Oh, let me share the right screen. It loves to swap the screen that I'm sharing around. So there's that for you. We've got NVIDIA sitting down 0.84 from last week's close, but in the pre-market, it is continuing that downtrend. We've got Apple that is sitting down 0.23 from last week, and it is also continuing that downtrend in the pre-market. Got Berkshire Hathaway. Berkshire Hathaway point A is halted on trading this morning, but Berkshire Hathaway B is up 0.46 in the pre-market, continuing its trend from last week. We've got Amazon sitting down 0.89. In the pre-market, it is making a little reversal on that. It is up about 0.25% this morning. We've got Eli Lilly up 4.27%. And in the pre-market, it is coming back down. We've got it down 1.24%. Tesla was making big moves last week. It was up 8.19 on its close last week. It is continuing that trend. It is up almost 7% in the pre-market right now. So, you know, we're seeing some sectors that are doing pretty decent. The Tesla ones kind of to be expected with all the news that has been out about Doge and the Department of Governmental what's the last one on it? But you know what I'm talking about. We've got Microsoft sitting down 0.68 in the pre-market. It is continuing that little downtrend so far. We've got Google sitting down 1.33 from last week. It is also continuing that downtrend, 0.4% down in the pre-market. We've got Meta as well sitting down 0.4%, and it is down 0.33% in the pre-market. So, you know, kind of seeing some reversal signals and some of that stock market, but I can't really say the same for crypto right now. Got Bitcoin up 2.25%. Ethereum is up 0.4. Got Solana up 2.85. BNB is down 0.48. We've got Dogecoin up 5.37. XRP's look down a little bit, down 0.27%. My bad on that. We've got Cardano continuing its moves. It is up 0.66% in the this pre-market of Monday morning. We've got Shiba Inu up 0.4%. Tron finally getting swapped with Shiba Inu and that market cap. You know, there was also some big news on the Bitcoin market cap. It made some big moves this weekend with this big move up. Got Toncoin up 1.33%. and Avalanche up 0.63. So definitely some big moves over the weekend. Let me get swapped over to this current week. We don't really have any big data coming out for this Monday. Doesn't look like we'll get any big data until Tuesday. Looking like Tuesday afternoon. Oh, no. Tuesday morning, we'll get some speeches by the Fed. The Fed chairs. We have Fed Waller, and the New York Fed Treasury purchases is going to be another thing that's coming out that Tuesday morning. Fed Barkin's also going to be speaking right before that. We do have a few more Fed chairs that will be speaking throughout the day. So looking like it's not going to be until Wednesday that we get that. That was my bad on that. We've got core inflation rate coming out month over month and year over year on Wednesday. CPI coming out as well, and inflation rate month over month and year over year. You know, if it comes out as forecasted, this could be very good for your continued uptrend, but you know, what goes up must come down a little bit. Seeing some slight retracements off of this data would not be too unexpected. Even good data, when you're going to see it changed around later, is not good data. So that's why you'll sometimes see pullbacks off of good data. The core inflation rate month over month is coming out, is forecasted to be the same as prior, 0.3% for the month over month, and year over year is forecasted to be the same as prior. Kind of not what you want to see when you're talking about coming into a position where everything's going up. This has been a really interesting week with Trump being elected and all of your assets going up. But when you're seeing some data coming out that might be coming out on the backside of that, where hey, the trend for our economic worry is not necessarily where we were wanting it, then you might see some pullbacks just on the data. The overall trend right now is to the upside, though. Everyone is pretty bullish on the Trump news, and there's definitely some reasons for that. We'll probably touch on that later today. Let me swap that back over to the Bitcoin chart and then hop over to the fear and greeds for the morning. We got the stock side of things sitting at 61 and greed. You know, there's definitely more room to push that a little bit higher on the fear and greeds before seeing a little bit of a pullback and a slowing back down. You know, we still have some months with the current president in office running things, and there's only so much you can really pump that before reality sets back in and you're like, okay, well, he's gonna be in office, but he's not there yet. So there's going to be an end to this little pump at some point. We got crypto sitting at 76 and extreme greed. So definitely sending some signs that we're getting a little toppy, which is definitely okay. I want some more buy-in levels on some hodls. You know, I made some money this weekend and I'm perfectly okay with that, but I also would like to swap all that profit I made trading back into some hodl bags. For the liquidation chart, we've got some liquidity to the top side of us, starting at 82,456 and running all the way up to 82,900. This is the Binance liquidation chart, so we've got some liquidity to the bottom side of us as well. Kind of a smaller hot spot. Not something that could really pull that liquidity extremely hard. But we do have a big gap on Bitcoin, which I will touch on in a second. that low side liquidity is sitting at 80,360, and there's a little bit more sitting at 79,700, and a little bit more sitting down at 78,000. For a broader view on that liquidation heat map, kind of the same thing, just all hotspots to the top side of us, which is definitely something that could help us continue that little trend up to the top. Zooming out a little bit more, let's see if there's any hotter. Nope, no hot spots to the bottom there. On a monthly side, yep, same thing. Looks like there's really no liquidity besides to the top side on a short-term chart that could really pull us in a direction. You can kind of see on those shorter term frame times where you could see some bouncing points if we do pull back down. Let me hop over to the chat real quick. We've got JR Block in here this morning. We got Moho, Melissa, good morning, good morning. Crypto Billy in here with the good morning, good morning. Got Justin Eubanks, maybe a Band-Aid. Got French Toaster in here, Randy Abite. Darren does things as well. Let's scroll down, scroll down. Got David Brumbelow in here as well. Good morning to everyone. I'm glad you showed up today. It's the first show of the new Good Morning Crypto without David. Hopefully he's doing well and getting settled into that new house. I know he said it'd be a little bit before he'd be able to do his Markets After Dark show. I'm definitely looking forward to that. I might have to set an alarm just so I can wake up for his show and see how that first show goes. So good morning to everyone. Good morning. We've got some gaps on Bitcoin here. As you can kind of see, this is the daily chart. This whole move up created a nice fair value gap. At the same time, this was on the weekend, so it would create a CME gap for your traditional markets as well. And this is a big area that your traditional markets might want to come back and test and buy at, because they missed out on that weekend price action. They're going to wake up and be up extremely high, but never got to participate in any of this action at all. If you drop it back down to a lower time frame, we've got the 4 hour. You got some top signals on your prime oscillator with some overbots throughout all of this range, this move on up. But your money flow is still looking pretty decent. It is very heavily green. You do have some divergences on this, but I don't know. It's really looking strong. I've got this fib extension that I had drawn from a while back. If you kind of zoom back, you can kind of see here. I drew it from this push up to the last all-time high, and I dropped it back down to the low. As you can kind of see, we played at some of these levels extremely nicely. And if you were paying attention to the price action this weekend, we got some nice play on this platinum pocket. It was a rejection point a few times, and then we turned it into some support if you look at a lower time frame chart. It was a very quick bounce off of it though, so definitely an area to come back and test. That was that $77,000 range. Right now, I'm kind of looking at an upside target though of that 84,800 range for the top side before we might see a little bit of pullbacks. We've got your money flow still green on your 4 hour chart, but it's ticking back down. It's lightening up on the green. You do have all those divergences that haven't really played out, but it's really bullish right now. This is the 15-minute chart. If you move on up to the 4 hour chart, like I had said, very green, but kind of signaling that it's going to come back down. But, Bitcoin has played out the same move in this whole trend where it makes that little signal like it's going to pull back. And when it pulls back, it just pulls back to an area where it just shoots on up from. This has been extremely bullish. You've seen the market cap of Bitcoin increase dramatically over the weekend. At the same time that it is moving up, you can kind of see that the dominance has ticked on up with the whole market moving on up. I'll have to take a look at the whole crypto market where you got your total 2 and your total 3. I will take a look at that a little later. But with that moving up as well, you're still seeing that Bitcoin dominance hold pretty steady. I was looking at it to make a higher low, and that's what it did on this kind of trend to the upside. I'm looking at it to reclaim that 60 level and continue on up. You might see some on the sell-off of your alts with Bitcoin. Bitcoin reclaim more of that dominance. And I had that upside target here at 62, maybe to that 66 range, as I had talked about before. I know Piper's talked about that 70% dominance range would be a nice area to see and what he kind of expects the top side of. But I think Bitcoin is going to fall a little short of that. But I think it's going to be a battle up to that point. You've got a lot of institutional buying that could definitely hold that price a little bit lower because they want to make some money. Let me swap back over to the Bitcoin chart. As I had talked about, we have a giant gap here. I know in the Discord, in our trading group, which if you want to join that, the link is in the description for a Discord. You join the WAP upperclassmen, and you get a little bit of the daily TA that we look at for the trades that we're going to make for that day. We've got 75,500 for the top side of that gap. For the bottom side of that gap, it's sitting at 69. That mid-range of the gap is sitting at 72. And for the mid-range of that, that's definitely a target that got discussed in our Discord. I don't see the gap really being closed. I don't see us coming back to that $68,000 range. I think that would be a definite battle. You do have your golden pocket sitting a little bit below the mid-range of your fair value gap, and that's sitting at 71,000. So you've got a few areas where we can bounce from. Your last all-time high was sitting right above that midline of your fair value gap. So all three of these points in this area would definitely be points that we could bounce from. We kind of end up taking we took the elevator to the top side this time, and you could just as quickly see us take the elevator back down before we kind of make a slow move back up as institutions want to take full advantage of these price points and buy at all of these levels. These are levels that we likely might never see again. Again, you would see this $66,000 range be a gap that we never came back and closed. So this could very easily happen again. Let me pull up the old gap. Was it this one? Yeah. Let me hide that. You can kind of see here on the move on up with all the bullishness, we saw just a wicks into the gap where we never even came to the midline, which is why I bring up that the all-time high is sitting a little bit above that midline and could definitely be another bouncing point that we continue the uptrend off of. But 72,300 range and 71,300 range are very plausible bouncing points as well. This whole area is a little bit scary to me. So I would definitely see some pullbacks coming our way, but I don't know how soon we're gonna see that. It could be Wednesday that we end up seeing that. We don't really have some topping signals on your MACD just yet. As you have seen here, we've gotten plenty of curvature on the move up. If you look at the lower time frame, you've got plenty of curvature on the whole moves, but when it does curve down, it's more of a cooling off before another little blast up. So just something to keep your eye on. It looks like we might continue this trend for a little while before we grab all of the liquidity from everyone shorting out and people stop shorting and that open interest comes down a little bit before we make the move on down. Institutions will want some of the price levels in this point because that was a CME gap as well as a fair value gap. I don't know if anyone has some assets that they'd like me to take a look at, but I had taken a look at some of the indices this morning. They are back to those all-time high levels, the same that Bitcoin is. It was kind of a little indicator that we might see the all-time highs on Bitcoin. You have your NASDAQ composite, which is now sitting above the one line on this fib extension I had pulled on the trend. That 19,000 mark, which I had talked about probably a couple weeks ago when we were back down here at the platinum pocket, and I said that we'd probably see a little weakness, a little bit of pullbacks to the gap. We have now just completely left that behind. We are looking a little toppy though, so could definitely see us pull back to this point here. Because, as I talked about in the beginning, heat map stock side of things, you are seeing a little bit of retracements in some non-crypto related assets, pulling back for the pre-market. You could definitely see that 19,154 mark be hit again before it's turned into some support and continue on to the upside. You have the S&P doing the same thing as well, blasted through that one line on the fib extension. You can kind of see here, I drew it from the low back here in August and the high and the low. So blasting out of that range. It is also looking like it could make a slight pullback. We will have to see how that plays out at the market open with, everything maybe continuing some of that pullback down, and that 5,900 mark to 6,000 to the 6,000 mark is going to be, psychological level area. You've got 6,000 sitting right above this point, but we'll probably end up making a pullback to that one line on the fib extension before continuing the trend. You do have the Dow Jones making the same move, explosive moves above the one line on your fib extension. You can kind of see here, it's been the same thing. All of these assets are kind of doing the same thing. We are in a bullish asset time of the market along with crypto. Your indices have been doing very well. Gold has been doing very well as people have been scared of recession, and they normally park their money in stronger asset classes. And that's why you've seen these things make all-time high again and again and again. And no different for Dow Jones. You can kind of see here, it is got a little bit more strength on your MACD for this, so it might continue a little bit to the upside before probably not coming back to this one line, because we'd already done that. I might have to find a new point to draw this fib extension line from, so I can kind of see some bouncing points on this, because I like to see those levels in between. The next target is very to the upside on that. for the fib extension line, and that's 45,000. So I'd like to see the bouncing points in between there. Let me pull up the Russell. The Russell is no different than the rest of these indices. It is continuing its trend. It is not as high on the fib extension as everything else was. You can kind of see that it has made a slower move to the upside, and this is definitely quite in line with your risk off assets. People have been very scared of the risk off class because they've been kind of scared of the economy. Where this Trump election, you can kind of see, definitely made people a little less scared of that risk off asset class. We got a massive jump up. Massive jump up. That CME gap is sitting right there with the rest of the highs that the Russell had made before. So could see a little bit of pullback to that. Prime oscillator showing some topping signals and some overbought, got some curvature, but could just end up pulling the same thing that Bitcoin did. Pull back, just a cool down, move sideways right on top of this fib extension line. That is the halfway mark on that before we end up pushing on up towards this golden pocket here, which is sitting above us at $2,500. Sorry about that. We've got gold sitting on a little bit of a retracement, you know. We've got it making some lower highs, some lower lows, some lower highs, but it's still in a nice point. I would expect to see gold pull back to this 236 on an extension before maybe continuing that trend to the upside. You do have your bond market, which is realigning in ways that I have been hoping to see. You know, it's been a while since we've seen our bond market align. It's been since COVID. You know, it's been a while, 2022. So definitely seeing your safe asset classes for recession proof be a little bit less bought, as it also signals that risk on asset time is among us. You can kind of see here, this 236 has been a nice point for gold to pull back down to and continue its trend from. That's sitting at $2,636. So definitely something to keep your eye on. We didn't end up making it down to that when we had pulled back down to it. So I would like to see a little double bottoming before we continue that trend. Let me slide on down to silver. Silver, as you can kind of see, has made the same thing. It definitely has pulled back a little bit stronger. It's right at some points where I would kind of look at, me personally, buying some more physical silver. You've got the zero line on the fib extension sitting down here at $30.39. So that's something that we could definitely bounce from again. It's been a point that we got some strength on back here. So definitely a point to maybe make a little play off of. I'll have to see how this market opens up and see how risk on everyone is, because you could easily see some sell off continuing in this week. As you can kind of see here, as when I had talked about the bond markets realigning, you can see here you've got very, very close on your 30-year and your 20-year aligning to a point where the 30-year is above the 20-year, which hasn't happened in a while. You've got your 3-month, which is sitting very, very close to coming back down below your 1 year. And this trend has been in motion since before Trump was elected. You know, the betting markets were believing that Trump would be in office come 2025, and they've kind of been playing that out. And this alignment could be very good for an economy if we do end up seeing that recession, that bond market flipping, the 2 year and the 10 year has been a slight recession signal in the past, over and over and over again. I don't know how hard hitting that recession could be. I know there's been a lot of worry about that, but with a Trump presidency and maybe the right economic policies set in place, which is something he's talked about, maybe no taxes on overtime, no taxes on tips, bringing more money into the economy, you levying tariffs on imports from countries that have been stealing our manufacturing because it's cheaper to do so, and there being no punishment for the companies that do that, could also be something that brings some strength into the economy, but not short-term strength. It would let us see some weakness on the debt, where we would see some tax incentives that slowly play out, but for the most part, you would see the companies resisting that for a little while, trying to take full advantage of the cheap manufacturing before it becomes too costly to really keep that manufacturing there. You know, there's plenty of things that we would like to see for our economy with Trump, and there's with the sweep of our government, you could definitely see those things play out. There's going to be some resistance, yes, but the resistance is not going to be strong enough to stop that from happening. You do have Trump that has been talking about bringing those jobs back to America, and the way to do that is going to be through policy. And you know, I would like to see that enacted. It's been a while since we've competed on a global stage with other countries on manufacturing. You've got India, which is competing with China right now. You've got also like New Zealand and your Pacific Islands, which do a lot of manufacturing for clothes. And this is something that America could easily do. We produce a decent amount of cotton, and it gets shipped on out of the country to be produced elsewhere, so that these companies can pay pennies on the dollar to places that aren't regulated the way that America is, where you see sketchy business practices, and some of these companies end up parking that money there, and it brings no benefit to the local economy, even though they say that they're an American company. And this is what Trump has had a problem with. So definitely some things that could bring strength to the economy. It would take it would take a little while to enact, though. So kind of something I've been interested to see with the 100-day policy that he comes out with. I know someone asked me to take a look at Link, so I will slide on over to Link. There we go. We got Link, which made massive moves on up, as well as the rest of the crypto market did this weekend. But you can kind of see here. Let me swap up to a higher time frame. It's kind of looking like it'll continue that trend too. You've got money flow looking very, very red on your 4 hour. You've got your MACD looking like it might set a little bit of pullback, but the trend is to the upside. The trend is your friend until it ends. And this is something that you don't really want to battle against. That $13 mark was some highs from over here that we hadn't seen in quite a while, and could be a nice little bouncing point for Link to retrace to before continuing its little trend. It hit the 50 mark on this fib retracement and didn't hold it very well. So $13 could be a nice little bouncing point. You also have some heavy buying pressure here, as you can see with the wicks on these candles. That $13.30 point could be another little bouncing point. This is a whole range right here where Link is a pretty good value. You do have, if we lose this $13 mark, your golden pocket sitting right below it, which wasn't really turned into some heavy support. It'll depend on what kind of dominance you see with Bitcoin on a retracement, but I would definitely expect to see Link as well as some other strong altcoins that are heavily real world asset driven and have good utility and function continue the uptrend along with Bitcoin because people are less worried. You will see things like your sketchier things outside of the top 100 and some of your memes. People will start taking profit on those because it's pretty scary. You're making a lot of money, and as you can see, as you had seen on your fear and greed, we are ticking to extreme greed. And this is something that is a signal for a lot of people to maybe take some profit in their riskier asset and park that money back in Bitcoin. And this is why you might see some of that Bitcoin dominance continue to make it some strength on it while we pull down a little bit. I see Eric Wallen is in the chat. Good morning, Eric Wallen. Good morning. He said, that's why I invested in India. Sketchy as F, working conditions like a young America. Yes, and that's definitely something that they've been pushing for. You know, if you want to raise yourself up as a country on the global stage, you kind of need some of that you kind of need some of that manufacturing. And this is where your first world countries want to do less of that work. But when they want to do less of that work and have less of those things in their economy, they see some weakness in their economy. Because where's that when you throw your manufacturing elsewhere and then these companies are incentivized to just keep their money there, you see less of that benefit from the profits being seen in your local economy, which is a play that is definitely good. Investing in India right now and investing in, especially since they're taking over Chinese manufacturing. But I would keep an eye out on those Trump policies because if he can force some manufacturing back into the United States, you could see take some strength taken away. It's definitely not going to take away all of it because China's looking pretty weak, and India's looking to take over some of that production side of things. You've got China, which has been in a weak state for quite a while with their housing overinflating their economy, and it's been prime for a takeover. And India's like, hey, we also got 1 billion people and can make stuff stupid cheap. So, hey, come bring some of that money over here and we'll make those goods just as quickly and just as cheaply as China has been doing for the past 25 years. So, something to keep your eye on. You'll see some of the manufacturing stay there because, you know, if it's cheap enough to do so and you can still make a profit at some of these companies with things like clothing being manufactured, cheap electronics being manufactured extremely cheaply, then what's the point in bringing it back over to America? You can pay the tariff and pay the people extremely cheap in less than moral business practices and still make a profit with the tariffs. And that's something where the big manufacturing is what we'd like to see brought back to America. You know, it's been a while since we've seen massive car manufacturing in America. '08 kind of demolished that. You saw these big car companies get bailed out by the government and then basically immediately give a middle finger to the American people and move all of those jobs overseas. And since then, I haven't really seen them as an American car company. You might see some of the the final production side of things for these car companies done in America, but most of the manufacturing for it is now done outside of the US. And that is something that definitely hurts the US. A lot of those jobs went away. And this is where you saw less strength in a very strong union in the US. Because guess what? They gave the middle finger to them and they were like, so what, you want to strike? It doesn't matter. We're gonna go make these cars for pennies on the dollar. We're gonna see, and that's also part of where the regulations are a little bit different, and they have you really saw a tick up in these cost to benefit analysis, where hey, we know that these people don't have the same regulations as we do, and they don't keep the same mind as we do, and so what that we see this seat belt or this engine electric problem in here. We did a cost benefit analysis, and it is cheaper to just pay it out on the backside because these countries don't have the same regulations as we do in the United States. And that's another reason to see these manufacturing practices brought back to the United States. One, for the jobs, two, for the higher quality production, because you are easily able to regulate these industries. So I definitely have been looking forward to some of those policies on some of these industries. You know, I don't know if anyone had any other assets they'd like me to take a look at. Let me scroll back and see if anyone said anything. I do see Lunar Beaches Crypto in here this morning. Good morning, good morning. You're up early. You weren't up as early as if you had to do the show, which was probably nice to be able to sleep in for a change. But good morning, good morning. I'm not seeing any other asset requests. So if nobody has any requests that they'd like to slide in at the end of things, I can take a look at my favorite asset before winding the show down. Let me bring up Near. You know, it is made massive moves. I didn't get to talk about it as much in the Discord this weekend as I had wanted. I was busy with some other things. I've been studying to get my CDL because 2025, I want to make a little bit more money so I can invest a little bit more money. We've got some levels that I had talked about in the Discord, though, that got demolished. I had been talking about this $4.30 range. It kind of ended up being slightly above that, where we saw some resistance at $4.45. Before continuing that trend up, we demolished the 50% line on our fib retracement that I have drawn out from. Let me just move it on up to the daily. As you can kind of see here, I had gotten it from the low to this high here. If you end up pulling it from this low here before the move on up, a lot of these levels line up the same. So I just ended up leaving it from this low back here to the high here, and it has played out very decently on some levels. This 50% line has been a pretty nice level to get back above. We've struggled. We got above it back here and struggled to maintain it before blasting on above it and kind of seeing it lost again. It was a point of resistance when we got above the golden pocket. It was a point of strength when we got above the golden pocket, and this 6-1. That is the 382 being the resistance above that before pulling back down below it. And as you can see, when we lose that, there's a lot of continued downside movement. So let's zoom on in a little bit. Let me pull up the hourly chart. We are seeing some top signals, reversal signals here on your prime oscillator over bot signals, heavy curvature on your MACD, But money flow is still very, 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 very green. You know, it is not even ticking to the downside on your prime oscillator. So something to keep in mind that this reversal could just end up coming back down to this 50% line and $4.97 before continuing its trend on up. It could also, just if you zoom back to a 15-minute, continue on a little higher high and higher low trend. So you can see we've made massive moves up and pulled back down before making decent moves up with equal highs. So definitely some strength to the upside. You can kind of see on the 15-minute chart though, there's definitely room for some retracement. You've got your prime oscillator looking pretty red. Your money flow has finally ticked to some red on on the 15-minute. You've got your MACD with a decent double topping signal here with some divergence, more hidden, signaling that we could get a little bit of a pullback. I don't know how much of a pullback though if the crypto market is going to stay strong this morning. As you can kind of see here, Bitcoin's pretty indecisive on this 4-hour candle with the money flow still staying green. So if we continue to see upside movements on Bitcoin, you can expect to see continued movement to the upside on here. That upside target I've got before your 382 is going to be that $5.60. That's probably going to be a little bit of a battleground before coming up back up to that 382, which is sitting right below $6. We've got a request for Pith, the link alternative. It is built on Solana and is aiming to perform some of the same goals that Link has. It is a newer project. I was definitely heavily invested in Pith in the first move on up. Let me get to a daily chart. It's been a while since I looked at Pith because I had sold off near the top. I was like, I don't know how much higher this thing is going to go. It is a strong move up and then ended up coming right back down to the levels that I had bought at. You can kind of see here, I had drawn out a resistance line going horizontally from this high that we couldn't reclaim. We are now sitting above that with some decent strength. You do have some tapping signals on your prime oscillator, but your MACD is still pointed very to the upside. We are above the zero line, and your money flow kind of looking like it could move on back up. You had seen this daily chart make a little bit of a dip down and some red before kind of flattening back out. It is kind of light on that money flow. You've got some hidden divergence here as well. So definitely something that could play out. Let me zoom down to a lower time frame real quick. Get some more data. As you can kind of see here, the 15 minutes showing a little bit of top. But you can kind of see this is a higher high than this high. You've got higher lows here. So definitely continuing that little trend. This is looking a little bit flaggy, but could easily just continue that trend as well if you're seeing Bitcoin make that move. As you can kind of see here, we got back to this resistance line here and are signaling some pullback. There's not really a clear trend line on the bottom side unless you're going from back here where you can kind of see here we get some decent touches. You do see some wicks below it. It is kind of a more of a oh, sorry about that. It is kind of a wedgish pattern looking to consolidate. So definitely something where if it does break, could potentially break to the downside because it is slanted a bit up. As I was saying, it looks a little bit flaggy, but if the whole market's going up, Pith is probably going to go up too. We do have some levels to the upside that I can take a look at if I move back up to a daily chart to get some of these old levels that we had seen. I might have to zoom it back down to a lower chart, to the lower time frame, to kind of gauge where we had got heavy bounces. There we go. You can kind of see here, this 49-cent point has been a point where we've seen heavy selling pressure. There's been lots of wicks here. The last time that we got up to this range, so that 50-cent range to about 48-cent range, 47-cent range is going to be a nice little area to get back to. As you can kind of see here, we've yet to reclaim the low highs from over here, but I would like to see us reclaim this 50-cent mark, kind of 49-cent mark, and turn it into some support. With this, you can kind of see here, we've got lots of divergences here on a higher time frame chart. Your MACD is definitely set to continue that. On a 4-hour chart, you've got money flow heavily green. And if Bitcoin's going to continue that trend up, then I could definitely see Pith making some pushes back up to this 50-cent mark. There's a lot of negative space here. As you can see, this is all negative space, and there's not really anything to hold us back. Low side target on the move on up could be 45 cents before seeing a little bit of resistance. Let's see if anyone's got any other requests. I had seen Pith. LBC said, "You doing 6 to 7?" I'm just running it until I got through the alt request. I see ABT and Ondo. ABT, I don't know if I have that on my chart. Nope. I do have Ondo here. It's been a while since I've looked at some Ondo. It is a newer project, and I'm not always the biggest fan of investing in newer projects until they really make the low after the drop. So as you can kind of see here, Ondo moved on up and has never really come back down here to these levels, which is definitely a thing of strength that you'd like to see in newer projects. I know this has a lot of BlackRock support, so let's continue these lines to the right. And as you can see here on a fib retracement, you are sitting right back to this golden pocket point. We're sitting right below it. That golden pocket is right around 95 cents. You've got your MACD, which is pointed basically straight up. So definitely something to definitely a signal to a continued trend. You do have overbought signals on your prime oscillator, your reversal signal, but your money flow is very, 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 very green. It's kind of curving down to the downside a bit, but let's see what it's looking like on a daily chart. Yeah, money flow on a daily chart is just starting to ramp to a point where it's going to look a little bit more green. The red has been heavy for a while in this sideways movement. So something to keep in mind, that the daily chart is looking like it's kind of bullish. Let's see, wrong one. Let's see on a 15-minute what it's kind of looking like. There, I don't know why it's not refreshing. There we go. trading view being a little bit slow. As you can see here, yep, we've got your money flow a little bit red on the 15-minute chart. Topping signals, some divergences. Your MACD is finally set to cross your indicator line above on the top side. So for another entry here, if we're going to continue the trend, I would look at 87 cents or a little bit above that. You could definitely see it make some higher lows and some higher highs here because it is in that trend. There's not really a clear trend line on the 15-minute chart. I can kind of pull up a smaller time frame fib. Let's see here. Low to some highs. Yep, it looks like that 236 is sitting right there at that 90-cent mark. So if we do end up pulling back down, I don't know if we get that low. I would look for a slightly lower high here or slightly higher low before trying to make a push to this golden pocket and trying to reclaim that. That's that 95 cent. And that next big target is going to be psychological and $1. I don't know if anyone had anything else they'd like me to look at, but if not, I'm going to wind the show down. I almost did an hour by myself. I didn't know I could do it. Woot. All right, let me swap over to the me screen. Thank you to everyone that showed up this morning. I definitely enjoy doing this show every morning. I love talking assets and I love talking investing. So I just do it for the enjoyment of that. It's I could keep going and keep going and keep going, and this gives me an outlet to just talk about those things. If you haven't hit the like and subscribe button, I would appreciate it if you do that. If you are not subscribed to the channel yet, check out the links in the description. We've got some indicator packages, as I had talked about earlier. We've got a trading group if you join the Discord. And the WAP upperclassmen, we've got some fire moves that we drop on the daily and throughout the day. Make sure to tune in to the morning market report with Piper and the OC guy. That'll be at 9:30 Eastern time. We also got Crypto Nightcap coming back on a Monday. The top watch show on the Piper Academy with TradeFly and FD White will be at 8:30 Eastern time tonight. So make sure to tune in to that one as well. Thank you to everyone that showed up. Make sure to wake up because today's going to be a good day.